A question being raised by a group of state lawmakers is, should the Public Regulation Commission regulate small solar electricity companies the same way it regulates giant P&M? They say no. For the background on that, I talked with State Representative Brian Egolf of Santa Fe.
Well, there is a proceeding at the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, which is the body that regulates utility and electricity in the state. And the outcome can literally determine whether New Mexico is going to be able to have renewable energy generation in the future. The proceeding is looking at whether it is permissible in the state for there to be what are called third-party financing arrangements for renewable energy installations, which in Santa Fe is like an arrangement the city had with a company called Sun Edison, where Sun Edison would come in and install solar systems at city facilities and then sell that power, that electricity, to the city. And the Public Regulation Commission is asking for legal briefs regarding whether that type of arrangement should be legal and whether a small company like Sun Edison should be treated like a major regulated public utility. The issue is critical to the ability for renewable energy generation to continue to expand in New Mexico because this is a very important way to finance renewable energy. So I, and right now 12, but very likely more legislators from all over the state will be filing today a brief with the Public Regulation Commission urging them to permit the continued use of these third-party arrangements so that we can see the explosion in renewable energy that we're hoping for.
Now, Sun Edison doesn't want to be regulated. It says it needn't be regulated because it's got a single customer. Is that it?
That's right. And the New Mexico Supreme Court agrees with Sun Edison. The court has held that in order to be an entity subject to public utility regulations, you have to open up your services to anybody that wants them within a large service area, basically making your services available to the general public. With Sun Edison, they only make their services available on a one-to-one basis based on a contract, in this case between the city of Santa Fe and Sun Edison. So they're not a public utility. But the danger is that if they become an entity subject to that kind of regulation, it'll have the effect of killing their ability to operate in New Mexico because they're a small company, and the costs to comply with the Public Regulation Commission's regulations and rules is astronomical and can only really be borne by a company like P&M.
So can we drag this down to, say, a level of individuals? What if you or I were to install a couple of panels and generate electricity for the city or for a neighbor? Would be prohibited under the PRC rules from doing that?
Absolutely. So this is not just Sun Edison. This is you and me and everybody listening. And this is part of a larger issue because in a separate filing, our public service company, P&M, has proposed placing an absolute limit of, I believe it's 1 megawatt per year of new installations of privately owned renewable energy. So the customer base of P&M is Albuquerque, Santa Fe, it's throughout the state. They're proposing that no more than 1 megawatt per year of new renewable energy could be installed privately within their customer base, and that would apply to you and me, and that would limit to about 150 houses a year of renewable energy installations. It's a very small, 1 megawatt per year is very small. So on the one hand, we've got a utility that's trying to limit to a small number the amount of new installations of renewable energy, and on the other hand, trying to shut down the ability of Sun Edison, you, or me from finding innovative ways to finance renewable energy installations. So this is a big fight, and it's very important for the ability of New Mexico to continue to be a renewable energy leader.
All of this comes about because previously the only way to make electricity was to build a big power plant, usually fired by coal, and you'd have to get permits to do that, and then your electricity would be regulated. Now it's much, much easier to generate it.
That's right, and it's much more efficient to generate it. When you have a large facility that's generating power, whether it's a coal-fired power plant, natural gas power plant, or even a large solar array, you have to build transmission lines and take that power from the place it's generated to the place where it's used. And there's a large amount of that electricity that gets lost in the transmission. It's called line losses. So it's more efficient to have what's called distributed generation, meaning instead of building a $1 billion solar array in the southern part of the state and sending that power up here on transmission lines, it's more efficient to place solar panels on the roofs of many, many customers. So the electricity only has to travel from your roof down to your kitchen instead of from Las Cruces to Santa Fe.
And we know from P&M itself that 2/3 to 3/4 of the fuel they use to generate electricity in the Farmington area at their big plant is coal.
That's right.
And this obviously is much cleaner.
Right. So you're not only gaining in efficiency and taking control of your energy future by having your own generation, you're also displacing coal that would have been burned with the CO2 and mercury and sulfur that end up in the atmosphere.
Is there precedent elsewhere in the country for what you're talking about?
Absolutely. This company that I mentioned several times, SunEdison, operates successfully in Colorado, California, and other states. And other states' public utility commissions have concluded that that way of financing renewable energy is permissible. So the precedent really is in favor of continued availability of this renewable energy generation, but we don't want to take anything for granted, so that's why the legislators are taking a really unprecedented step to intervene in this case to let the PRC know how important we think this issue is.
You're filing this now. When will the PRC likely have a public hearing on this question?
That's a good question. The deadline was extended to today. Then there will be an opportunity for the public to review the briefs that are submitted. I'll be putting a legislative brief up on my website today, which is brianegolf.com, also brianforsantafe.com. You can find the brief there. It'll be there this afternoon. You can get the other briefs at the PRC website. Then there'll be, I believe, a 30-day period for responses to be written to those briefs, and then there'll be a public hearing.
Brian Egolf, State Representative from Santa Fe, on the line a bit earlier at noon from KSFR News.